My name is Kareem Hernandez, and it is a pleasure to be with you all. I hope you're all keeping safe, that you and your families are doing well, given all things considered with this pandemic. Um, I always joke with folks that 2020 and now 2021 is like 5 years. So it's 1 year into 2 years, but it feels long. But the whole point is that I just want you guys to be encouraged, to be well, to do well, and to just keep your heads up at all times. And we'll get through this, and that kind of stuff. So today I'm going to share about starting a business, but not any particular business. I'm going to share insights and some thoughts that you should consider as you enter the world of business, as you enter the world of entrepreneurship. And you're going to hear some personal stories from me, some of the things that I did, some of the things that I didn't do, some things that I did that went really well, and then some things where I failed, right? And in all of that, I want to encourage you to take your notes and apply your own learnings and experience, and as I dare say, do what I do, but even better, right? So I'm going to share the screen, and let's get into it. All right. Okay, you should be able to see that well, I hope. All right. So here's just a few things about me. Just to warm up the space a little bit. I am a graduate of the University of West Indies with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies and minor in history. I have been in the marketing and communications industry over the last 12 years. And of course, as introduced by Gabrielle, I am the co-founder of Auxano Resources. Auxano Resources is a business management or business process and outsourcing solutions company where we focus on providing business solutions for micro and small businesses in Trinidad and Tobago. And regarding our services, we have a wide range, going from entity management to pre-establishment, consulting, strategy development, business planning, marketing, communications, consulting, and of course, entity leadership development. So of course, if and when in the future you decide to connect with me, I will speak with you and share more details about these services. Now, when it comes to starting a business, and even before that, for a lot of us growing up, we have some kind of ambition, some kind of desire in terms of what we want to do. For some of us, when we were growing up, we wanted to be a police officer, you want to be a soldier, doctor, nurse, lawyer, whatever. In my case, I actually was more like a rabbit, jumping from one idea to another, literally. I didn't have anything concrete. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. I actually wanted to be a meteorologist at one point, or went into forestry, like, forestry management and stuff like that. And I suppose it's because, there was some level of inspiration in terms of what I saw people do, or when I heard what they did and that kind of stuff. But I just kept jumping from one thing to another. And collectively, you could say I wasn't quite satisfied, but I think it was all part of the journey in terms of just not knowing exactly what I longed for, what I desired to do, and so forth. And I will say that in being honest and open, is that going into business was not one of those. You have these aspirations, all these of working in all these different sectors, but launching out into your own business was not one of them. And this is a question I want to ask everybody who's considering going into business or starting a business. Why? Why do you want to do it? What are the things that are motivating you? What are the things that are pushing you? What are the things that are pulling you? And this is a one singular, one-word question that you should, and this is my encouragement, spend the time to sit down and ask. Why do I want to go into business? Why do I want to start? Why do I want to enter a sector that has a number of issues and challenges. Why do I want to leave a 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 job and start something fresh from scratch, etc.? And here's some additional questions. What is your motivation? What are your reasons? What is the purpose of starting this or that? And I want us to give thought to some of these questions. And in doing so, you need to be real and you need to be honest with yourself. And the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes we have these ambitions, and maybe Hollywood movies, TV shows kind of give that impression that when we go into business, it's going to be rainbows, skittles, unicorns. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be easy, smooth sailing, and that kind of stuff. And I'm sharing this to say that for a lot of people who are into business, myself included, it's not always going to be a smooth road. It's not going to be easy goings. It's definitely not going to be rainbows and unicorns and skittles. You're going to have rainy days, and I don't mean literal, although we're in Trinidad and Tobago, so it's also literal. You're going to have rainy days. You're going to have days when it's going to flood. You're going to have dry seasons where there's no rain, but things are drying up. Resources are gone. People may have left you or don't believe in your vision anymore. And it's just you by yourself. And that is why I want to encourage all our participants who are considering going into business, evaluate your motive, evaluate the reasons as to why you want to go into business, start a business, and be honest with yourself. Like really, 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 really be honest with yourself. And then evaluating that, tie it to the next point that I have here, count the costs. Count the cost. So just like when you're going to buy a house, or you're going to start university, or you want to get into a fundraising project, you have to count the cost. You have to count the cost into the tuition, books, food, room and board, transport, and all these things add up. If you, let's say you're starting a job and you're moving to another country, you have to count the cost in terms of packing up your items and moving it, selling your house if you own a house, if you have a car, selling that, getting rid of assets, getting yourself to the other country, and starting up in another country, which has a different cost on its own. In everything that we do, there's going to be a cost. When it comes to business or starting a business, the same rule applies. In my case, I counted the cost in terms of time. I was working in an insurance company, and I decided that I was going to leave in the middle of the year. That was in 2016, so we took in end of June. And I had to evaluate how much savings I had left. Unfortunately, I was able to evaluate that I had a year's worth of savings. I had to evaluate the time it took to get the business off the ground, so that if I ended it on June 30th, how much time I need to spend between July 1st to whenever to get my product or my services off the ground. And that was a real reality hitting home for me, because you only have 1 year of savings, which means every day and every month that went by, my savings dwindled because I had responsibilities. I had gas to put in the car. I had insurance to pay for, tires to change, internet and phone bills to pay at home. I still had expenses with no income coming in, while still getting a business off the ground. So this is the first point, first question. You must ask yourself the question, why you want to do that? And you have to be real, and you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to count the cost. Now, once you've answered that question, this is my next second step that I want to suggest. Establish a foundation or an anchor. So just like how you're building a building, a house, where the first thing you do, you don't put up a roof or you don't put up walls, you set up a foundation, you build a base, and based on the type of structure that you want to build, you end up, or may be required to build a deep foundation. Similarly with ships, when they go out to sea, especially when there's a storm, they have one of the things that they have, and of course, based on the size of the ship, they have an anchor or two, so that when they need to stay put, or they need a sense of grounding, especially for safety purposes and otherwise, they have to throw the anchor. So when you have established your why, or answer the question as to your why, Here's a couple of things you need to do in leveraging it. Develop a purpose statement, develop a mission statement, develop a vision statement. There's one more statement or other activity you need to do that's connected to this, but I'm going to share why this is important. Now, first things first, in a lot of businesses and organizations, you may see their mission statements and a vision statement and their core values put up on a wall or it's in a document. And in most cases, people forget it. In some cases, they don't even know what it is because it's just a pie in the sky kind of thing, meaning to say that it is something that is aspirational, but unfortunately, in some cases, it is not put into action. And my encouragement to all our participants this morning is this, that when you've answered the question as to why you wanted to go into business, you now need to translate that or develop that into your purpose, your mission, and your vision. And I'll tell you one reason why. There are going to be days when things are going to get rough. There are going to be days when things are going to get tough. There are going to be days when you have a whole set of clients and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, things go bad and you end up with one client or no clients. There are going to be days when you have a team, whether it's volunteers or staff, and for some reason they come, but they also go. You're going to have hard days. In fact, that is the reality of a lot of businesses right now because of the pandemic. They are in the middle of their hard days. They're in the valleys, they're in the rains and the floods, the hurricanes. And having a purpose statement, having a mission statement, and having a vision statement reminds you as to why you've gotten into business. Now, I want to be clear. Your purpose statement is the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? But your mission statement is a reflection of how you're going to do what you're going to do in, who are the people involved, where you're going to do what you're going to do. And then your vision statement is what you want your business to be from a futuristic, desirable standpoint. Let's say 50 years from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, when you're dead and gone, but it's still going, God's willing. And these things are important to have in front of you because it allows you and helps you to be focused. And that is one important thing, more than money, more than resources, more than anything else. You need focus because time is on the, clock is running. You have objectives to meet. You have clients to satisfy, right? And therefore, when it comes to business, and even in any organization, even nonprofits, focus is key. Focus is required. So when you have your purpose statement, your mission statement, your vision statement, it's not no pie in the sky, airy fairy thing. These are statements that you need to hold on to. You need to hold on to and apply. And here's a couple of things I want to mention as I go on to your purpose, mission, and vision. You see your values? Keep in mind your value system as well. That is to say, you have to determine what is important to you, what they mean, and what are the expected behaviors. Some organizations call it core values. So a core value, for example, could be serving people, or integrity, or honesty. But a word or phrase or statement is not enough. You have to now ask the question, what do they mean in the context of my business that I'm starting up? And what are the expected behaviors as a result of what they mean? Because one day you're going to hire staff and you want them, if your core value is integrity, you want them to be people of integrity. You want them to be people who are honest. You want them to be people who are hardworking. And then in your developing of your staff, of your team, you work with them to help them to establish and to live out what those behaviors are. Now, when it comes to vision, purpose, mission, core values, here's just 3 things I want you to remember about it. Keep it one, keep it short. Don't do a paragraph, don't do a thesis, don't do a book. Keep it short, keep it simple. By keeping it short and simple, it allows you to remember it. And then last but not least, because it's short and because it's memorable, it's transferable. You can apply it to any context in your business. So there are organizations who, one of them, and I have it in my notes here, but one of them, their mission statement is this, and let me pull it up for the sake of everyone here, right? If I could just get it open. I can't get it open, but I'll share the notes afterwards if possible. But the point is, when you remember it, When it's short and simple and you remember it and you transfer it, it makes it easier. And I'll give you a classic example of one of my clients. He's a tailor. His name is Daniel. And we met up in my office in Starbucks in Movie Town, Port Spain. And he had a bad day. He had in his backpack had his notes and his artistic pad, because he's a tailor. He makes designs and stuff like that. He sketched it out. And on one of those days, he got caught in the rain, and his designs got wet, soaked, gone. And we sat down in the coffee shop, and I looked at him. He was all, dejected and stuff like that. And I had to ask Daniel, what is your mission? What is your vision? And then he stopped. Now, mind you, this is a conversation Daniel and I have been having many times in the coffee shop. So it's something that he remembers. And I was asking him. And then he's like, his mission, that is, he's like, to create clothing that not only looks good, but fits good. Short, memorable, transferable. And then I was like, okay, so tell me what your vision is. And then he told me, to be a global player in the fashion industry. That may not happen in his lifetime, but he has something that he's working towards 50, 100 years from now, even 20 years from now. But to get to that point, he has his mission to create clothing that not only looks good, but fits good. That's his mission. And he's targeting people of all different sizes and ages and stuff in designing that, because he wants the clothing to not only just look good on them, but to fit good and not be like a catwalk, if you guys remember what catwalk was like. But for Daniel, he knew his purpose, he knew his mission, he knew his vision, he knew the values. And he went right back to the drawing board and started to recreate all that he lost. So he had good days, and then he had bad days. And if you're starting out with business, you have to be real with yourself into the good days and the bad days, and establish a foundation or an anchor. Now, here are a couple of key considerations in getting off the ground, right? One, ask yourself the question, what kind of business are you going to venture into, right? You have to ask that, and ask that in the consideration of maybe your skill sets or your gifts or what you're just simply good at. So be real in that regard. The other thing is, how are you going to fund the business? Some people fund their business through getting, outside investments, funds from family and friends. They funded from off their own savings. That was my reality. I lived off my savings for an entire year and funded a lot of business expenses out of my savings. Eventually, I did earn some clients, and over the years have been earning clients, and therefore the business has been self-sufficient in that regard. But periodically, I would invest personal funds into the business as well, right? Here's the third point to consider. How much time are you willing to commit? For some of us, we gripe and groan about our 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and they don't pay us overtime or whatever. But the reality is that when you get into your own business, sometimes you're going to be spending 18, 19, 20 hours into it, way more than your regular 8 to 5. I have a friend right now who, unfortunately, he got retrenched because I suspect it was because of the whole vaccination thing. He didn't want to get vaccinated. So he got retrenched. And right now he's in a business, which he was doing before with his sister, fashion business as well. So he was doing the accounting in where he was before. And then in the evenings into the nights, he was sewing. He's on his sewing machine. He's measuring, he's cutting, he's doing everything. And then because he got retrenched, he's now spending like 18, 19 hours at the sewing machine and doing a whole bunch of things so that he could produce the quality clothing for his clients, generate the income, and live off of that. So the question you have to ask is, how much time are you willing to spend? How much time are you going to commit? One of the things you have to also consider is, what is the legal structure of your business? Now, one of the things that I share with my clients is that based on the nature of the business and maybe the stage of it, you may need to consider sole trade or sole proprietorship instead of limited liability for now. And then as your business grows, you can graduate from sole trader to limited liability. Due to the nature of your business, you may need to skip the sole proprietor completely and start limited liability, but then you have to have a minimum of 2 directors. So you need to find somebody who's trustworthy enough to be a director and to hold you accountable. And then, of course, there's some people who go into partnerships, which is just an evolved form of the sole trader, right? I have a client who He is in partnership. He's a Trinidadian, but he's in partnership with 3 other Venezuelan nationals in the context of music production, right? So you have to look at what your business is, give some thought to it, and then consider the legal structures to go with it. And that in itself is a topic that, you know, has a lot of depth. So another time, we'll share more on that. You also have to ask yourself the question, what are the risks involved? We talk about time, we talk about money and that kind of stuff, but what are the other risks? I have a client who I just spoke to 2 days ago, and she is into cosmetics or developing her own cosmetics, but also prior to that, she was into doing artistic work, you know, drawing and that kind of stuff. And this thing they use on your hand, can't remember it's right now. But unfortunately, she's experiencing a health risk in terms of carpal tunnel, and that is now affecting her hand. Regarding the cosmetics and the skincare, she is looking to, you know, after 2.5 years of research, launch out into that. And I had to share with her, I said, listen to me, you may need to consider restructuring your business from sole proprietor to limited liability for one reason. The legal liabilities that could come with somebody breaking out because of your skincare. And in fact, there was an episode, if you watch Suits on Netflix, it's on Trinidad Netflix, there's an episode in season 8, right? I think it's episode 9, where a 15-year-old or 16-year-old girl was suing a big conglomerate skincare company because one of the new product lines came out and she applied it to her face and she broke out. And apparently this 16-year-old was an influencer, right? Now, that is a fictional show, but that's just a real example of the realities that based on your business structure and based on the nature of your business, there are risks associated with that. Then you have to ask yourself the question, who is my target audience? Who are the people you need to focus on, drill down into, and not try and reach everybody? That's a question you need to ask. And of course, what other resources do you need? Is the last question you need to consider. Meaning to say that when you go into business, due to the nature of the business, you may not be able to do it by yourself. You may need to have a team. And then if you're going to have to get a team, my recommendation is get a team who shares the same values, purpose, mission, vision, etc. Because you don't want to run the risk of getting people to come on board with you and they're not on the same page with you. And these are some of the key considerations I want you to consider. This is the last and final point. Plan and execute. In other words, don't just think it's a business is going to start by just sitting down dreaming. Dreaming is a part of it. Reviewing the situation at hand is a part of it. And therefore, one of the things to do is review your assets. Review what you have in front of you, your cash, your time, your other assets, your car, etc. Review what you have and see how best it can help you go forward. Develop a business plan. Document how you're going to start and run this business. And, you know, banks may ask you for a business plan and investors may ask you for a business plan. And they want to know that you have everything planned out for the most part, or you understand what you're getting into. But most importantly, that business plan is like a Bible for you. It's to allow you to help you stay on track with what you've outlined. Number 3, seek out the assistance of a consultant or an experienced business person. In other words, ask for help. Now, mind you, some of them may charge a cost. Some of them, if you're lucky to meet with me, I'll meet with you in a coffee shop. Not in a pandemic, of course. But I will meet with you in a coffee shop. And I just want to hear your story. I just want to hear why you want to go into this. And I will give you some general pointers and tips and stuff like that. After that, we can talk other things afterwards. Some of these business persons are legit people who are a success. And they're just willing to accommodate you and share their experience with you. Some of them could be a mentor. Some of them could be a parent. The point is, get help. Don't try and do this by yourself. 4th point, be realistic. Set a timeline in terms of when you want to do this. In my case, when I was leaving that corporate job at the time, I had made up my mind in January, but the plan was to execute in 6 months, which is to say, I'm resigning by the end of the 6 months, starting from the 7th month or the 8th after I'll give myself a little vacation time, and then get going from there. But you have to be realistic with your timeline and do that, not in isolation, but do that connected to all your assets, all the other resources, all your connections, everything. be realistic and develop a timeline. And then execute. Just start. Just start. The more you delay, the more time might be wasted, more resources may be wasted. So get started. One of the reasons why I delayed, I'll tell you why, is because I did not define and clarify my why. And that's the only reason why I would say, wait. Don't start anything until you've clarified your why. If you haven't established your why, then you find yourself in trouble. So with that said, this is my contact information. These are my thoughts. I hope it is helpful. I hope it triggers some things in terms of you to think about and to consider. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you for this time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.